Hello guys, welcome to Science Academy. So today we are discussing about animal tissues, right? So this is comes under the first lesson of your grade 11 textbook. I think tissues, the word tissues, all you guys heard before. In grade 10, we learn what are the organizational levels of an organism. So start from cell, then tissues, second level, then organ, then system, and the last one organism. So definitely you need to remember this. I think your exams also they tested this. Cell, tissues, organ, system, and the organism. So those are the organizational levels. So specifically today we are discussing the second organizational level, that is tissues. There's another part of this lesson, that is plant tissues. We'll bring you that in another video. So today we are discussing about only animal tissues. So before we move into animal tissues, we'll discuss the definition of animal tissues. So guys, definition of the tissues has three main keywords. Here the first one is these tissues made up of group of cells. As well, tissues means the group of cells. They have multiple cells. Sometimes one type of cells, sometimes more than one type. The second keyword is they have a common origin. They have a common origin. Start from a common origin. And also they perform a specific function or functions, right? Sometimes specific function, sometimes specific functions. Mainly they give in your textbook as specific functions, so I will mention that like that. So a group of cells having a common origin and to perform specific functions. Okay, that's the definition of the tissues. This is common for plant tissues and animal tissues as well. So these three keywords essential for your definition, otherwise you can't get whole marks. So guys, there are four main types of animal tissues. The first one is epithelial tissues. Second one, the connective tissues. Third, what is the third one? That is muscle tissue. I think you guys know about muscle tissue also. Third, fourth one, last one is nervous tissue. Your brain and spinal cord as well as nerves belongs to this nervous tissue. Okay, we'll discuss one by one about all four tissues later. Right. So first topic is epithelial tissues. So what is the main function of epithelial tissue? Why we need epithelial tissue? What is the main task they have? Actually, epithelial tissues covers our body, especially vertebral body. I think you guys know who are vertebrates. So vertebral body is covered internally and externally lined up by epithelial tissues. Like our skin, when you consider our skin, so the epithelium is there. It's a keratinized epithelium in our skin. Right. So especially our epidermis, last layer is made up of epithelium. And also our skin and our internal, if we take buccal cavity, the mouth cavity, so internal surface is covered by a tissue, that epithelial tissue. And also internally, there's trachea and our respiratory tract and our ear, eyes, so all the internal and external surfaces covered by epithelial tissue. Okay guys, then we'll take few minutes to discuss about the structure of epithelial tissue. The structure of epithelial tissue, we should know that, right? So there's an image in your textbook also, but just look at how I draw this. So epithelial tissues has a special basement membrane. So normally other tissues don't have like this basement membrane, but in epithelial tissue they have a basement membrane. I think you guys know what is basement. Like every house we have a basement like that, right? So this is basement membrane. So inside of the basement membrane I will name this. So this is basement membrane. So membrane, right? So inside of the basement membrane, there are blood vessels, right? There are blood vessels. You can see like this, the blood vessels, blood capillaries are moving, right? So blood, I will write blood vessels here, mainly blood capillaries, right? Capillaries are there, and then on this basement membrane there are cells, right? So I will draw like this. So you can see these cells are very closely packed, tightly packed actually. There are no gaps, right? There are no gaps between these cells. So can't go any microorganism or any dust particle through these cells, right? So like this. So this is nucleus, and here you can see the tightly packed cells, right? So epithelial tissue we can classify according to two methods. The first one is based on the shape of the cells, and the other one is based on their cell layers. How many cell layers are there? Okay, shape of the cells mainly we can divide into three types, but this is out of syllabus. I will just say, just if you have any doubts of what are the cells, just you can search and find, but just I say squamous epithelium is there, and cuboidal and columnar. You can see the difference of the shape. And on the other hand, you can see the according to the cell layers, if this has only one cell layer, we call as simple epithelium. But multiple cell layers, we can say those are complex epithelium. Like in your skin, your epidermis has multiple cell layers, keratinized squamous epithelial cells. Like so, that tissue has multiple cell layers, so we call it as complex epithelium. But if we take like your blood vessels, especially blood vessels means blood capillaries and alveoli having one cell layer, so it's a simple epithelium. So that's the categorization of how we can categorize based on shape and the cell layer count. Then we'll move to what are the features of epithelial tissues. Like you guys should know what are the features, but just simple. You have very simple features in grade 11 textbook. So first one is the cells are placed on a basement membrane. That's one feature. So I think all you guys know, I draw that previously, so I think it's clear. And the next one, just see the cells are tightly packed. That's also I mentioned, these cells are tightly packed. Just think these cells are loosely packed. I told you in skin, these cells you can see, these tissues you can see. If there are gaps, the microorganisms, the dust particles, pollens can go inside your body. So that is weird thing, right? So to prevent that, epithelial tissue located in skin, so there are no chance of going inside any particles. Then third one, you can see a nerve supply is present within the tissue. Nerve supply is present within the tissue, right? That's why we can feel that. Like when you touch the skin, you can feel that. So there are some other receptors also, but anyway, the receptors are coming, especially the nerve endings are coming to the epithelium. Then the next one also mentioned under the third point, but I prefer that if you can take your note as it into your fourth point, because there is no blood supply. Inside the cells, there is no blood supply. As I draw previously, the basement membrane is having blood supply, but inside the cells, there is no blood supply. How then these cells get nutrition and oxygen? And in the other hand, how they remove carbon dioxide and the waste products? So they use the mechanism called diffusion. So what is diffusion? Diffusion means the materials or the molecules goes from high concentration to low concentration. We can discuss this later. So diffusion method used here to transport nutrients, oxygens to the cells, and cells use diffusion techniques to transport their carbon dioxide and waste products to the blood capillaries. I think you guys understand. If you have any questions, you can ask. You can just comment or you can join our community and ask. Okay, then we'll move to what are the functions and what are the locations these. Okay guys, so then we'll move to what are the locations and what are the functions, especially the function of epithelial tissue depend on their location. Basically they are lining up, that's okay, and that they are covering the surfaces, internal and external body surfaces. That's true. But according to the location, their function is different. Like if we take blood capillaries, they are doing diffusion and protection. Right? Diffusion and protection. But when we take lining of a nasal cavity, they are doing secretory function as well as some kind of receptive function. Especially when we take like blood capillaries, they are doing what? What kind of function? Diffusion and protection. Alveoli also, they are doing diffusion and protection. Like there's only one cell layer, you can see an image here also. There's only one cell layer in alveoli, also in blood capillaries also, because that transaction, oxygen and carbon dioxide transaction and the nutrition and waste products transaction efficiently they need to do. So that's why they have only one cell layer, that is an epithelial cell layer. So that cell layer doing diffusion and protection. So inside the blood capillaries and also wall of the alveoli, the epithelial tissue function is diffusion and protection. Then if we go into our respiratory tract, so there is another type of epithelial tissue locating there. So when we take lining of our nasal cavity, especially they produce some secretions, and also they important for smell the senses, right? There is a special type of epithelial tissue located there. You can see some image here, right? Then and also in the trachea and other areas of the respiratory tract, this internal surface they cover, and also they are doing some secretory function, and cilia also there. So that's hi-fi things we can learn in grade 12, but simply they are doing secretory function there. If you take digestive tract, they are doing some absorptive function, especially in small intestine and large intestine. They need to do this. Small intestine, they are absorbing amino acids, glucose, fatty acids and glycerol. So these things are absorbed through the epithelial tissue. And also in large intestine, they absorb water. If we go into stomach, what happens? They are doing secretory function. Small intestine also doing some secretory function, but especially in what? Stomach wall of the stomach doing this. They are secreting pepsinogen, HCl and some other renin-like enzymes as well. So they are doing some secretory function as well as some absorption, like in your biological process we can learn. So in digestive system, they are doing some different types of functions, the epithelial tissues. And when we go, there are some examples given in your textbook, like lining of nasal cavity we discussed, but wall of urinary bladder, what happened? That particular epithelial tissue that we called it as transitional epithelium, but that term is not important for you. That tissue can stretch. Like when urine filled into urinary bladder, that tissue can stretch. That's why you can tolerate your urine into some time, because epithelium can stretch. And thyroid gland is also mentioned in your textbook. Thyroid gland doing sector, that particular epithelium involved in secretory function, because thyroid gland secreting thyroxine hormone especially. Other than that, calcitonin also they are secreting. You can learn that later in your biological process lesson. So those are the examples given here, and skin epidermis, the mainly protective function, lining up and protection, and some transactions also doing. And especially last thing, and under functions you can see there's a filtering function that definitely we need to discuss. Filtering function, you can see there's an image here, right? I think you guys can see now. So this is kidneys. In your kidneys, what happened? The body needs to filter your blood and remove urea, uric acid, creatinine, and some drugs. And if you have excess glucose, so need to remove. So filtering need to do. So do that filtering process. There is a unit, we call this structural and functional unit of kidneys. What is this? This is nephron. So in nephron, there is, you can see there's a thing called that Bowman capsule. So inside this Bowman capsule involving filtering function. So your blood mainly filter out using this Bowman capsule. So that's how they are involving filtering function inside the kidneys, right? Epithelium of Bowman's capsule in nephrons. That's how they mention. Then we miss something. Yeah, perception of stimuli. Like I mentioned, nasal cavity, but other than that, tongue and nose, especially the tongue and nose, tongue especially for detect taste, and nose I mentioned previously also smell senses. So those are the functions and the locations they mention in your textbook. Okay guys, this is all about epithelial tissues, right? So then we need to move into connective tissues, but not today. So we will bring you that in our next video, because the time is limited today. So we will wrap up today's session. So I will quickly revise what we discussed. We discussed what are animal tissues, what the definition of tissues, and then what else? We go into epithelial tissues. What is the main function of epithelial tissues? First of all, I mentioned you. And then what is the basic structure of epithelial tissue and how we can classify those tissues, we discussed. And later we discuss what are the features, what are the main features. There are four features we discussed. And what are the locations, and based on locations, especially their functions as well, we can discuss, right? Because according to location, their functions are different. So actually epithelial tissue is a multitasker, right? They can do different activities according to the location. They can adapt, and there are different types, right? So he's a multitasker. So then next video we will move to connective tissue, and also we can watch the higher tiers of this epithelial tissue lesson also in our channel SciFit Learning, right? Okay, so I will invite you to join with us in our next sessions also. If you need to join our live sessions, you can just contact our number, just text us for WhatsApp message, then we will contact you as soon as possible. So goodbye guys, then we'll meet our next lesson. Bye.